CTV's national affairs correspondent Omar Sachedina joins me now from Bogota with the latest. So, Omar, Maduro is backing down on the expulsion of U.S. diplomats. Is this a sign that he may be someone that they can reason with, the United States can reason with?
Well, there are some signs of softening. The fact that he's backed down from this, the fact that he said that he's open to meeting the interim president, the self-declared interim president, Juan Guaido. But keep in mind, the Americans were saying all along that they were going to defy this order to leave anyway. There are some American diplomats who did leave, Lois, but they were saying all along that they would not be taking this order from Nicolas Maduro because Maduro, in their view, was not the legitimate leader of this country. They say that when the elections happened, they were not democratic, they were fraudulent, and so they would not be recognizing his leadership. So the Americans, along with Canada as well, we should point out, are recognizing the interim president, Juan Guaido. And as far as Canada's role is concerned in all of this, you know, we're learning, too, that this recognition of Guaido is not something that just happened a few days ago. Canada was involved in a kind of quiet diplomacy. These are closed-door talks, behind-the-scenes talks that have been happening for months because, keep in mind, the opposition in Venezuela is quite splintered. It's quite fractured. And so they needed some individual to rally behind, essentially, the opposition did, to take on Nicolas Maduro, and that man clearly emerged as Juan Guaido, and Canada was supporting that diplomacy throughout. So, you know, is it a sign that he can be reasoned with? I think that would be premature to say. Certainly the international consensus is mounting against Maduro, and he seems to be digging in.
Now, Venezuela was issued an ultimatum at the UN Security Council meeting yesterday. What was the reaction to that?
Well, it was defiant, quite simply put. You know, there were a couple of ultimatums. Now, the European Union, as a body, said that fresh elections must be called in Venezuela, or else it would, as a body, again, recognize the interim president, Juan Guaido. Now, several countries were more specific with the timeline. They issued a more urgent ultimatum. They said, countries like France, Britain, they said that those elections must be called in 8 days. So the Venezuelan foreign minister at the Security Council said, 8 days, what power do you have to tell a sovereign country what to do? So, you know, even as this international consensus is mounting that fresh elections need to be called, Venezuela is simply saying, it's our country, don't tell us what to do.
And you've also been speaking with Venezuelans who have fled the country for Colombia. What have they been saying about the conditions back home and the political climate there?
Well, it's interesting speaking to them because we've asked them a series of questions, but it's when you bring up Nicolas Maduro's name that they have the most visceral reaction. That is something that really gets them going. And, you know, in one case, a couple of days ago, there was a migrant who uttered a Spanish expletive. So the language has been colorful, passionate, and strong. But keep in mind, Lois, too, they have been through so much. I mean, this is a country, Venezuela, where the cost of basics like food and medicine are simply unaffordable because of hyperinflation. People are going to bed hungry. We've been told they've been rummaging through garbage just in order to live. And so 1 million of those 3 million migrants who fled the country, who fled Venezuela, have you know, tried to make their home here in Colombia, and about 250,000 of those are here in Bogota. Living a very difficult life, I have to say. You know, there was an individual we met yesterday in his mid-20s. He has a 3-year-old daughter. He's left behind in Venezuela with his mother-in-law. He's selling lollipops and candy on the street just to make the, you know, $5–6 in rent per day. He needs to rent a small room with his wife. So, you know, the plight of migrants obviously around the world is well documented, but certainly for those here, they are suffering. But they are also watching the developments closely and with a sense of hope as well. They hope that for the first time in years, perhaps they may be able to return home.
Okay, CTV's national affairs correspondent Omar Sachedina, thank you so much.
You're welcome.